Hello, and welcome to this tutorial using the World Creator Bridge with Unreal Engine. In this video, we'll go through the process of syncing a terrain directly from World Creator into Unreal Engine while maintaining our materials and models. We're using the Biomes 01 sample from World Creator 2025 and 6. To comply with Unreal's recommended landscape layer and material texture sampler count, we've reduced the materials slightly. On top of that, we also reduced the number of objects to speed up the import process. Additionally, the resolution of the terrain has been adapted to match Unreal's recommended landscape sizes, which is different from the standard power of 2 sizing due to Unreal's landscape component system. In our case, this means switching the terrain from 2K by 1K to 2017 by 1009 pixels and setting the precision to 1 meter. You can find a link to the table showing the different resolutions in the description. While it is recommended to comply with Unreal sizes, the bridge also supports standard power of 2 or every other custom resolution. If you choose to do this, the bridge automatically adds padding at the borders to correctly fill the components, as you can see here in this example. Before exporting from World Creator, we need to decide on how to handle our objects to ensure they are exported correctly. Per objects, we have several options for this. For larger, more prominent assets like our trees, instances are the best option. This exports a point cloud for exact placements like you see it in World Creator and spawns them using a PCG. Alternatively, we could set them to entity. In this case, they would be placed as actors in our scene, which is most useful for unique assets such as castles or houses. Smaller high-density items such as grass and rocks should be set to detail. This then generates a distribution mask for Unreal, which is imported and procedurally populated using PCG. Once you're happy with the way your terrain looks, simply click the Sync button in the top right-hand corner of World Creator. Now let's head over to Unreal Engine. Before we can import, we need to install the plugin. Unzip the bridge you downloaded and drop the World Creator Bridge folder into the plugins folder of your Unreal project. If you don't have a plugins folder yet, just create one. After that, launch Unreal and go to Edit Plugins. Search for World Creator and ensure it's enabled. You'll likely need to restart the editor after that. After the restart, you'll see the World Creator icon in your top toolbar. Click it to open the bridge panel. The bridge is separated into several tabs. We'll start in the Terrain tab first. In the XML tab, you can specify the location of the sync XML. By default, World Creator overrides the same file to allow for an iterative workflow, but you can point this to a specific XML if you're managing multiple terrains or change the bridge path in World Creator. Since our sync directory is in the default location, we can simply place the read XML data. The bridge now displays the terrain size, precision, and height range, as well as the recommended landscape settings based on the terrain. This suggestion is also auto-loaded into the landscape parameters down below. Next up is the import parameters section. The asset name is used on every asset created by the bridge for that terrain. Meaning, if you want to import multiple landscapes into your project, you can simply change the asset name and import a second terrain without overwriting your previous one. The import material toggle allows you to skip material creation in case you're using something like a landscape auto material. And the import layers toggle skips landscape layer import and instead switches to a simple baked color map for the whole terrain. In this case, also the landscape layers on the landscape component aren't imported. Lastly, if reset terrain is enabled, the bridge will destroy the landscape component and create a new one on import. In case you add either sculpt or spline edit layers in Unreal and want to re-import your terrain, you should disable this. Below that are the landscape parameters. These are the same settings that appear when you create a default landscape in Unreal, and they're automatically set to the recommended values from the Read XML button. Of course, if you want to adjust any of these settings, you can do so before syncing the terrain. It's important to mention the height range value here, since Unreal's landscapes have an upper and a lower limit. This is important if you want to use extra added layers for sculpting or splines, which could be below or above this terrain's original height range. If you plan to use the resync option in your terrain, you should set the height range value to your anticipated upper and lower limits for the landscape, since our resyncs must fit within the boundaries of the first imported landscape. By default, there's 150 meters of padding added to the height range from the XML file. Since in our case, the suggested values fit our terrain, we can simply leave them as is. Now click the Sync Terrain button. Unreal will now generate a landscape actor, create the necessary landscape layers, and build the landscape material. After the import is completed, we get a pop-up telling us that our landscape material has more than 32 texture samplers. In this case, it's always best to check the landscape first. In our example, it should work fine. Since we have word partition enabled, the landscape is initially hidden. This is because it hides the individual proxies during import to speed up the process. Simply enable the whole region in the word partition editor. As you can see, we now have our landscape in Unreal. If you open the landscape material, you can see all of our individual materials from World Creator. With our landscape in place, it's time to bring in the objects. In the object section of the bridge, we have a few different toggles that allow you to reset and re-import certain aspects of the object scattering. Since we're importing our objects for the first time, we don't need any of them. So we simply press the Sync Objects button. Once the objects are imported and we go closer to them, we can fairly quickly notice that they are somehow looking strange. This is because the default GRTF material that is applied to the objects during import isn't really the best. We'll now quickly fix this for this bush. First, we create a new material for the bush. Then, since it's foliage, we'll set the blend mode to mask, the shading model to subsurface, and enable two-sided shading, so that the back faces of our leaves are also rendered. Now all that's left is to add the base color and normal map, and connect everything to our output material. For our subsurface channel, we'll also use the base color map, and while this isn't really the physically correct approach to get the subsurface color, it'll get the job done in this case. Next, we simply replace the material in the mesh with our new fixed material. I've done this off-screen for all the other materials as well, so we can directly see the difference on the whole world. Besides fixing the object materials manually, we could also replace the imported assets with custom already polished assets from the content browser. This can come in handy if you already have your object and everything else set up in Unreal either yourself or from an asset pack. To do this, simply navigate to the main terrain folder and open the PCG graph that is used for spawning the objects. In here, you have all the mesh spawners for the detail and instance meshes, and can easily replace them. For in-scene actors that were spawned from the world creator entity type, you'd have to replace them in the actor itself, since they are spawned separately from the PCG objects. Thanks for watching. We hope this has given you an idea of how to work with the world creator bridge for Unreal. If you have any questions or run into any issues, let us know in the comments or join us on Discord. We can't wait to see what you build with it.